now you won't know what I'm talking about. I do apologize, first of all, if there's any glare. I hadn't realized that I would be under these conditions. The second thing is me being the first person to try to use PowerPoint here. You can expect that this will be a disaster. As we begin, I want you to do two things just as we start. I forget what my thing is called, but it's the last one on the page if you want to look at actually what I'm talking about. But I want you to, first of all, call to mind some people who are not here. The people who were your mentors, they were your elders, the people who brought you into the place that you are. And I invite you to call them forward because I really do believe that they are the people who can help us journey to where we have not yet gone and where we can sometimes be afraid to go. Second thing is I want you to think about the people who are here in the room. And now just take a look at the people in the room for a sec. What do you notice? I remember when Sally Y., who is from Sierra Leone, was invited up at the stage at Birds Hill Park during Folk Festival. She said, "Bill, I have never seen so many white people in one place at the same time in my life. It was like snow on the hill." I want to talk a little bit about some of my own experience. I am currently doing some research into the nitty-gritty of interculturalism. It grows out of our experience at Knox of, there we go. That's not going to work. Our experience at Knox, which involved a transition over 14 years from a community that was about 20% diversity and 80% settler white to a community that is about 80% visible minority, newcomer, and about 20%. And so in that process of transition, we had an opportunity to experience a whole lot of things in terms of difference. That grew out of our specific context at Knox, which is Central Park, which is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in the country. And so I want us to begin, and if nothing else works, maybe the first slide will, and that's really the point of this whole thing. So we changed because our context changed. Canada, what we didn't realize at the time, now is dramatically different. So in the end, what if we only have two choices? To embrace this new reality, allowing or encouraging our church to morph into a new intercultural reality, or become a kind of Anglo-hideout, or maybe German hangout, if you're, I was making an assumption here in terms of background. Hideout, hold on as long as we can, last refuge of the once dominant colonialists. And so this, I believe, is one of the most theologically significant documents that you could access. It is called Immigration and Diversity, a breathtaking title. You might think it's the kind of title that would have been put together by statisticians, and you would be right. This was released last January, in January 2017, and it is a projection of the Canadian population in urban centers in terms of diversity in the future. You can download it in PDF form from the StatsCan. Just do immigration and diversity, you'll be able to Google it and it'll come up. I won't go into all of it, mostly because I don't understand all of it, but they use three different scenarios, a low immigration, a high immigration, and a middle one. We will use the middle one. And then if you can go to the next slide, please. So this is looking forward to the year 2036. That ought to be. In the year 2036, Toronto, if we look at immigrant and child of immigrants, so this is the first generation born here, will be 79%. So 4 out of 5 people in Toronto will either be immigrant or will be a child of an immigrant, the immediate children who are just born here. Now, those immigrants will come primarily from South Asia, from Southeast Asia in Toronto, and across Canada primarily from those same locations, but African diaspora and so forth. And so the predominant place that we are getting immigrants from are non-white populations now. And Winnipeg, which isn't quite as high as specifically targeted as, or identified as an area in which there will be rapid increase. If you go forward, next one. And similarly, if you look at in the year 2036, not 2016, Toronto will be about 68% visible minority. At what point do we drop the minority, you know? And Winnipeg is 48%. This does not include First Nations. They are not included in that population. There's another study 5 years earlier that looks at projections of Aboriginal or Indigenous populations. And so if you add to that, Winnipeg is projected to have be about 13%. I'm surprised it's not higher, but First Nations. So then you come up with something like 60%. So next. Now, in terms of our history, for most of the 20th century, we grew through fertility. It sounds like fun, but that shifted. And so by the mid-1990s, late 1990s, it shifted. And so most of our increase started to come from other places. Now over 80% will come. We'll keep moving. We're not going to get very far into this. Go, quick. So how does the church grow? How does it move forward? I want to invite you to be, since the person is standing, we have very little time, move to the next one. Move to the next one. If we are intentional about changing, we want to actually say we won't grow the same way, we want to encourage. I encourage you to be intentional about what kind of welcome do you want to provide. We can go through them, but if we go to the last two, the first ones are saying basically, go to the next slide. We can look at genuine welcome, which is what Catholics often talk about as radical hospitality. It says, I accept you as you are. To be a part of us as we are. There is one further, which is to say deep welcome. I welcome you, we welcome you as you are, to be a part of us as we are, but knowing that in the process we will be changed. And I think that's probably given a thing. Are we up? That's it.